Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Marina Oster, Stanford scientist and life coach, and I'm on a mission to make sure that you create your very own reality. So today we're asking, what is the benefit of life coaching, right? What are the benefits to have a life coach or to receive that type of session? What exactly is it that it gives? What's different? What's special about it? And how is it different from getting advice from, let's say, friends or family or other people? So let's find out. So when you choose to do life coaching, right, the first thing that you are doing is actually honoring your time. You're honoring what it is that you desire, things that are your goals that have been held back, that have been kind of on the back burner with all of the requirements that life, career, job transitions have thrown at you, and the part of yourself that needs to be brought to light, that needs to be acknowledged or unpacked or allowed to flourish, or again, goals that have been pushed back and back further away because of your responsibilities. That is something that you are choosing to honor when you decide to go the life coaching route. Because when you do that, you will have specific time that you will focus solely and explicitly on defining what it is that you want, and achieving those goals, reaching them, putting in the time to take one foot in front of the other and move towards their realization. And so, unfortunately, although we sometimes know our goals, or sometimes we need further exploration or discovery, right, whether it's a new career path or whatnot, what we all have very little of, it seems, is time. Everything gets in the way. And so life coaching really is the way to say, this is my time. I have no choice but to do this for myself. I am putting myself first. I'm putting my needs first, finally. And when you work with someone, you have accountability as well, right? It's the fact that you have to go into the meeting because someone's waiting for you. It's the same with life coaching. You can do these things on your own, and some parts you should, and different times in the journey require that, because the work ultimately is yours. However, to actually jumpstart it, to actually get going on it, that's where you need someone who you are in a professional relationship with, that you can go ahead and get started when it's time for your session. You are present, you are focused, and that's how you begin. Now, another thing that we truly, truly need is an unbiased perspective, right? If you think about it, we could go to our friends and we could go to our family, but often, especially family, they love us so much, or they have a certain very highly vested interest in your success, but in your success, the way that they see it, right? It's not the way you define success. It's not what it is necessarily that your heart desires, that you really truly want. And so there's often this very undercurrent or subtle conflict between our family members and that which we desire, or the expectations for our life that are coming from the way that you grew up, again, from family, in the way that they're used to doing things. There's a generational difference. And so we truly need an unbiased opinion. We need an unbiased ear to hear us out and to validate that, yes, what we desire is worthy of creation. It is worthy of achieving and realizing it and enjoying that, the fruits of your labor in that area, in that field, in that way, whatever it may be. So again, sometimes family isn't necessarily the best person or group of people to go to because they see the way that you should do things in their own way. And that, of course, is defined by the way that they grew up and the priorities of their parents in turn. And so there's often a generational gap, and there's a gap in what they think is important for you and what you really need. Now, during life coaching, what you start to do is you start to uncover what is holding you back, right? Because if there were things that didn't hold us back, we would have achieved them, right? And so all of us are born into this life. We have our upbringing, we have our family, we have our schooling, we have our experiences, we have our peer group, we have the generation that we're in. All of those things define a certain perspective, a certain way that is saying that's how we do things, and that's where we start to develop limitations. We start to avoid listening to our own inner voice, right? That intuition gets quieter and quieter until we really ignore it. And then when we do that, we over time stop staying true to ourselves. And actually, while the intuition is silenced, our discontent grows louder and louder in these subtle ways. Our discontent starts manifesting in all of these unhealthy ways, whether they're habits or mood swings or anger or the way that we see things in our relationships start not working, and that added stress still comes to the surface. So we can't avoid it. We need to stay true to ourselves, but our external world, our peer groups, our families often start to silence that and say, no, I know what you need. This is what it is. And so we follow that, all the while turning our backs onto our own genuine desires and our own genuine needs, and it just doesn't work. And so in life coaching, you're looking at what is holding you back. We're pinpointing it, right? We're defining it. Is it our upbringing? Is it our family? Is it what our parents deemed important and not important? Did you fit into those categories? Were you able to succeed based on their definitions? And if not, we certainly developed insecurities there. Was it criticisms during our school because we didn't fit the mold, right? We weren't in the box. We didn't achieve the perfect A's because we had other parts of us that needed to be fulfilled, or other talents. And so it's uncovering what holds us back, whether it's trauma, whether it's upbringing, whether it's schooling, or outside influences and relationships and friendships. That's where we finally see, aha, this is it. This is what I keep bumping up against and can't move past. And so we can do that with our triggers. If we look at our triggers are the key to showing us what is holding us back, because our triggers are showing us what we truly fear. And it's true that there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And the power of fear is that we constantly try to avoid it. And when we try to avoid it, we live small. We hold back. We don't fully yell our power. We don't fully show our brightness and our brilliance. And we do this dance for months and years and sometimes a whole lifetime. And that is where we need to pick our attention onto that. We need to put our attention onto that. We need to have someone validate and say, yes, you're right. This is how you feel. This is where you're stuck. And so our triggers show us that. Our triggers is where we focus, because a trigger is a very strong emotional response. A strong emotional response that is a snowball of feelings. And that is immediately a sign that there is some negative belief, some trauma, some thinking that when we bump up against this experience, it just explodes internally, and it's very difficult for us to handle, and it's overwhelming and it's painful. And so our triggers are showing us where our fear lies, right? So if we're triggered strongly by our boss criticizing us, right? Where is that going? If you just look a little deeper, you see that, oh yeah, my father criticized me growing up. I was never good enough, or at least that's how I felt. And so my boss criticizing me is really adding into that wound. And so you can unpackage that and you can bring it to the light. You can bring it to the surface. And when you do, its power over you, over us, it fades. It dissolves like mist in the morning sunshine. And that is the power of looking at the triggers, uncovering our fears, and then saying, this is what I was afraid of. But when you know that that's what it is, that's where the journey starts, because now you've identified the problem and now you can dismantle it. You can work through it. You can have it disappear. And so it's important to have someone by your side, or to commit that time to focusing on these things, because then you can have the breakthrough and you can finally move on to doing, to achieving, instead of just treading water or, walking on a treadmill and not going anywhere because of that electric fence really that's there, and it's that fear inside. And so with coaching, we can introduce practical tools that we work with and that over time, in real time, actually allow us to choose a different path when we are triggered. We have tools that we use that then allow us to say, wait a minute, this is how I'm reacting. I can feel the emotions coming on. I am triggered. This is what I'm going to choose, or this is the tool that I'm using. Because think about it. It takes 30 days to break a habit, right? Why is that? Because the habit has wired a certain pattern in our brain. We can fire through it. It's easy. So that's where we go by default. And that's why it is hard to break a habit, because the wiring is already there. The snowballing effect, the negative stories, they're already waiting for us because we've used it. But if we stop that process and we go down that route more rarely and more rarely until we don't at all, that route or that pathway starts dying off. And so we build a new one. We build a new pathway. And again, in the beginning, it's hard. And that's why we need to practice. That's why it takes 30 days to break a habit. When you practice, you are then, in the beginning, yes, it's hard to try a different approach or a different route. You're actually building that neuron pathway in your brain. And because it's new, it hurts, so to speak, right? It just takes time and it takes more effort. But with each time that we use it, we're laying down that foundation, we're laying down that path, and we start firing along it. And with practice, it becomes easier and easier to follow that path. And so we're literally breaking the habit of the way we've lived our life before, right? The narratives, they're all in here. And so if we can dismantle them, stop using them, they will die off. And then we build a new pattern. We build a new process onto which we fire. And that's what allows us to introduce a new way of being that then becomes a habit. And once we've done that work, we're able to start envisioning an ideal scene, an ideal environment of what it is that we really want with no limitations. We start connecting the dots, putting together the pieces of, I want that. That feels good. This is what I've always dreamed of. And you start putting all of those fragmented pieces together into a powerful vision for your life, whether it's a 5-year plan, whether it's a specific vision for the way you're going to parent, whether it's a career path and the attributes that are important to you, like traveling or working from home. You start to create a vision in parallel, and you invest the time to grow this vision, to give it life, to give it your energy. And then what you find is what you focus on is what will be highlighted in your external experience. And so that is, in a sense, the journey that you take when you go the life coaching route. You are able to be validated, you're able to have an unbiased perspective with your needs at heart, and you're able to identify your fears via your triggers. You're able to dismantle them through regular practice and build a new tape, which is really what we're doing. We're taking out the old subconscious tape that we didn't even know was playing in our mind, and we're putting in a new one that is success, a new one that says, of course I'm worthy. Why wouldn't I be? And when you put in that new tape, you are giving yourself a completely new toolkit of abilities that you always had, but that were dimmed or you didn't allow yourself to use. And when you do that, you realize that your life is your creation, and it's up to you to create your reality. And it is a beautiful experience. So always remember, you are the creator of your reality. You are a hero, and it is a hero's journey.